welcome to another episode of Gamerheads. This week I have with my co-host, we have Blue.
AKA Writer's View.
And Christian.
AKA Fulgen.
And then we also have from the Controller Thors, Mike.
AKA Pezman Mike.
Hey, there we go. Thanks for joining us, Mike. So I think we'll be doing more of this probably cross-play, I guess, if you will.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, so Mike will be talking about a game that he's been reviewing here. Actually, we have a lot to talk about. So he'll be reviewing Stasis later on in the show. Then we have a review of Nickelodeon Kart Racers, a review of Black Ops 4, and a review of SkyScrappers. And then we have an interview on the back half of the show with James Parker from Ground Shatter Games, makers of SkyScrappers. And, of course, we'll be talking about Red Dead 2, Red Dead Redemption 2, because I think we have to talk about it because, well, it's a really good game. So, we have a big show for us today. Let's get into the news first. I have a few items here for the news. The first item that I have here is Season 2 of Castlevania is out on Netflix. Has anyone seen this show, or have any of you seen it yet?
No.
I just watched the first season a couple days ago, and I thought it was great. I really liked it. It started out kind of slow, but then it made up for it. And then it's only 4 episodes long, like 4 24-minute episodes long. And so you're like, since when did that count as a season?
I know. I thought the same thing.
So anyway, I watched that just a few days ago, which means I didn't have to wait very long for season 2. And I watched 3 episodes of that last night. Okay.
So I think you're about as far as I am then, too. Season 2 has 8 episodes.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know, right?
Now.
But it's good, isn't it? Good?
It is really good. I think it's pretty clever, to be honest. I'm not familiar with the writer. What is it? Warren Gillis or something?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Apparently he's a pretty famous comic book writer.
Yeah.
So
he's doing a really good job with incorporating all the Castlevania, like in that timeline too, not like making it kind of out of sequence. So he's doing a really good job with that.
Mm-hmm.
With really Isaac and Hector. Oh man, this is so good. It's so good. Mike, have you seen this show yet?
So when the first season came out, I watched that the day it came out, and I don't want to say binge watch it because it's only 4. Like you said, it's only 4 episodes.
Yeah.
But I really, really enjoyed it, especially because it was based on Castlevania 3, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, correct.
So, yeah, and I'm really excited this is out, but I haven't seen any episodes yet. I have 1 episode left of The Haunting of Hill House. Then I got to jump into Daredevil. Then I'm going to get into this.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
I finished The Haunting of Hill House last night.
You did it.
I did it.
It's good. It's really good. I think I got 2 episodes left.
But the ending is not
really
the same
good.
As the book, is it?
None of it is the same as the book. Don't even get me started. Oh my gosh. I think I must be the only one in the world who cares about this, but yeah.
I know, I saw your tweet.
It's nothing like the book.
But yeah, it came out. I mean, I'm glad that Castlevania, the second season, came out right before Halloween, because it's a really good series to watch for Halloween. The characterizations of the personalities between each character is just really good. It's a good series. Just it's not for kids. So like, if you think you're gonna have kids sit down and watch this, it's not. So
yeah,
I mean, just the violence alone, but then there's a lot of swearing in it too. So
well, yeah, it has a TVMA rating, and it is deserved.
Yep, exactly. The next item here, I wasn't going to add this, but I added it anyway because apparently this is news that Bethesda confirms that it won't be bringing Fallout 76 to the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Is anyone shocked about that? I don't know.
No.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't shock me in the slightest bit.
Was anybody actually expecting Fallout 76 to be brought to the Switch?
Probably not. There were probably some far-flung hopes out there.
I guess. But as the case, it's not going to be coming to the Switch.
Fallout 4 itself runs like poop on consoles anyway. Like, I had a friend who played it on PS4, and boy, that was a nightmare. Like, he only played it for like 10 hours, and like the buildings in town, they were like popping up away from their hitboxes. So he could like walk through the buildings, but then like run into invisible walls because the hitboxes were still where the buildings were. Yeah. And it was a mess. And people were falling through the floor. He was talking to what's-his-face about another settlement, and he just fell through the ground of a river, and he couldn't talk to him anymore. Those games just make the consoles break.
Oh. I have not played it, so I'm not sure if I want to now.
And I got it pre-ordered, so
much more enjoyable. Oh, nice, Mike.
I don't know. I don't know if it's not so nice anymore. That what you're saying. I got it pre-ordered, so now I'm starting to get a little scared. But I pre-ordered on the PlayStation 4.
Nice.
Yeah,
Christian is so good at selling games.
Yeah, he is.
Oh no.
Yeah, just ask him about Binding of Isaac, his favorite game of all time.
Yeah. Don't ask Mike.
But yeah, Fallout 76, I mean, I've heard that it has some issues. We'll see. I don't know. The other item from Nintendo Life, actually the next 3 articles are, Epic has closed on a $1.25 billion investment deal with a group of equity backers, and now the deal now values Epic at $15 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess some of this is that they're going to use some of this to pay backers off, I guess, but then also go branch out into other things like sports and esports and such. So that's pretty cool.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money
in a short amount of time too.
Yeah. So I don't know, it's crazy. And the last one that I have here is from Nintendo Life, that Capcom announced that Resident Evil and Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil 4 will all make their way to the Switch next year.
Wow. That's crazy.
But not surprising.
Yeah.
I have Resident Evil 4 on GameCube, I have it on the Wii, and I have it on the PlayStation 4. I think that's all that came that's all it came out on.
Are you gonna get it on the Switch?
Yeah,
right? Yeah, I might as well. Yeah, I definitely want to pick it up. Maybe if they do the motion controls. I mean, Resident Evil 4 is, I love that game so much. That was like one of those games that I played through like 4 times just because because the first time I played it, it was like it was really like nail biting because like my ammo would go low, my health was low. By the third time I was playing through it, I unlocked like the unlimited rocket launcher, and I'm like, hey, I remember you. Then I would just blast him in the face with a rocket launcher. I'm like, yeah, it's a lot easier now. But yeah, I think I'll pick it up. It just depends. I'm still old school and I like my physical games, and I know Capcom is not too keen when it comes to the Switch on putting things on carts. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure if there's going to be a physical release or if it's going to be digital.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I'm tempted to pick it up. I've never played Resident Evil 0. I've played the other 2. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. The other thing that just triggered my mind, that limited run games said they're going to have physical cartridges in Best Buys.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
One of those games is Golf Story, and if you haven't played Golf Story, get Golf Story.
Yes, Golf Story is great. I
haven't played Golf Story.
Oh, you have? Okay, so do you like the original? What was that? What one was that one? It was like on the Game Boy. It was a golf game on
Mario
the Game
Golf.
Boy. Yeah, maybe it was Mario Golf. It was really good. That reminds me of this game in some ways. Except this one is like a little bit darker. Like your character, like
darker,
is going through
a darker golf game.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, because your character's going through like a breakup or a divorce with a really not nice person. So, yeah. And all he wanted to do in his life was play golf, and she like makes fun of him for it. So.
You guys are about as good at selling this as Christian.
It's the greatest game ever. His wife hates him.
Yeah.
That's what. Actually, when you go to Best Buy and pick it up, that's what it says on the back of the box. Yeah. It hates him, or his wife hates him.
Yeah.
There's nothing else on there. No pictures or anything.
Nope. And that's you're trying to, you had this bond with your father when you were a kid, and then you're trying to get back into that. It reminds me a little bit of Kingpin, the movie Kingpin, in a way.
It does, yeah. I can see that.
Because he had this, he had this vision of, or this aspiration of becoming, amazing bowler, right? And then, stuff happens to him. And same thing with this guy. He had aspirations of becoming an amazing golfer, and then life happened. So
yeah, but it's a top-down golf game with I would say somewhat deep RPG elements.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so good. Yeah. That one I have that already on the Switch. I probably wouldn't pick up the physical copy, but if you haven't picked that up, that's definitely a good game.
It is sounding like I should not miss this.
When did that game come out? Last year? Or was it last year?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it was like early Switch.
Yeah, it was early Switch, so.
Yep.
Do you guys have anything else?
No, I was looking on my phone for something interesting, and I couldn't find anything interesting.
Yeah.
I have something we could talk about real quick.
Yeah.
I remember you calling out to me earlier this week, Blue and Roger, I believe, that their Twitter was ablaze with the PSN name change terms and conditions.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy, those are a nightmare. Because, when they first announced it, they made it clear that there were a lot of caveats when it came to changing your name. But since they rolled out the beta firmware test, I believe it was, they're actually allowing some users to change their names now. And they're just covering their bases and giving you a bunch of warnings. Like, you may lose access to content, including paid content. You can lose your progress in games, including save data. You can even lose parts of your games or applications because they may not function properly.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's just them, covering their legal bases. But boy, that sounds awful, and it's going to make me not change my PSN name for a good long while, which is very sad.
So, Freak Show it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Freak Show it is for at least a little while longer. It makes me sad.
That was my favorite part of it, where they say, and even if you don't have problems with any of that, some users may still see you by your old name.
Yeah.
So it's just completely
They're just
pointless.
Twisting the knife.
Man, it sounds like a drug commercial.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, a long laundry list of side effects.
Yeah,
may cause death, may cause blindness. I don't know if I want to take this pill.
Yeah, exactly.
Ask your doctor.
Yeah, ask your doctor. Christian, you should ask your doctor before you change your PSN name.
I should, probably for my psychological health. But yeah, that sucks. It sucks. Yeah. It makes me sad.
Yeah. But who knows? I mean, somebody will, obviously people will change their name, and then we'll find out from those people what kind of side effects that they're experiencing. So.
Absolutely.
Anything else from anyone?
The only other thing I've got is this week Target is having their buy two get one free, their yearly buy two get one free sale.
Oh, nice.
For games.
So on every game,
Wow.
except Red Dead Redemption 2 and select Nintendo Switch games. Probably just for the first party ones.
Yeah.
Probably every Nintendo game. No, I'm just kidding.
But I might use this to pick up Starlink.
Oh, yeah.
Starlink, Spider-Man, and maybe something else. Well, definitely something else since it'd be free. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Those are two good games. I mean, I haven't played Starlink, but it looks amazing. But Spider-Man's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Don't mind me. I just hopped on the Target website, and it's like right there in the front.
Nice.
Blue will be
don't mind me. I'm you guys go ahead.
The rest of the episode, she'll be shopping on Target. Okay, cool. Well, let's move into then our talk about the different games. We'll start with Red Dead Redemption 2 because, boy, that's probably on everybody's mind right now. So I've been playing it. Blue, you haven't been playing Red Dead Redemption 2.
No, I think I might be the only person on Twitter who has not played it. I'm very left out.
I'll give my first impressions of the game. I'm not that far, so I've just made it to the first city, and I made it through the first mission where Jimmy Brooks notices you and recognizes you from Blackwater, and completed that there. I will say, oh my gosh, this game is so good. This game takes me back to Red Dead Redemption 1. I mean, it just seems so, it fits so well with the game. I will say the controls are a little honky. I don't know. It's weird to have to hold down a button to do things,
Yeah.
But other than that, I think that the game is really fantastic.
Yeah. Who wants to go next? Mike, do you want to talk about it next?
Yeah, sure. So I picked it up at 9:00 on Thursday, and then I didn't get to play it until Friday because you have to install the game, which takes about 2.5 hours, and then you have to install the other disc, which takes about another 40 minutes. So I was like, all right, I'm going to sleep. I got to get up early. But I did play it. I got Roger. You said you and I were about the same location. I made it to the first town. I am enjoying it. I really, really like the game. It definitely reminds me of the first one. There's a lot of like real subtle things too. Like for example, when you start off the game, you're in up in the mountains, and it's a really bad winter. And when I left the cabin, the sun shining off the snow is like, so I live in Chicago, and in the middle of January, when the sun is out and it just reflects off the snow, it just blinds you like you wouldn't believe. So when I walk out of that cabin and that snow, that reflection is just blinding me, I'm like, yep, all right, so they got that down pat. And we made it through there, and it's just, I don't know, it's just so atmospheric, and it just really feels like a really, really, well, it is a really well done game because it took them like 10 years to make, but it's I know it's going to be a great game. My only concern really about it is because there's so much to do, I have a feeling the level of micromanagement is going to be a little off-putting.
Oh yeah.
You need to maintain your weight. You need to maintain your hair length and your beard length.
Yeah.
You need to maintain your horse's weight. There's so much that you can miss, or that could affect your health or affect other aspects of the game. You have to wash your clothes if you get blood on them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm not a huge fan of like micromanagement in the first place. So I'm hoping this doesn't become too detrimental to the game. Sometimes I just want to run around and just shoot animals and people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I understand what you're saying, where you're coming from. I haven't had too much problem. Well, I'm not that far yet either, but I did have to take a bath because my character was just disgusting. And I did shave because I was like, oh my gosh, like that beard that I got going on, that's pretty long. And that's what I heard too, that some people were saying that because of the survival-esque type things where you have to eat and sleep and such, that was a turnoff for some people. But I mean, I don't know. So far, it hasn't been too much of a hassle to do that stuff. But Christian, you've been playing it longer than Mike and I have. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I got it on Thursday, like Mike did as well, at 9 p.m. And like you said, Mike, the installation process is nice and long, so I didn't get to play it until like 10:50, which was like 10 minutes before everyone else got to play it who got it digitally. So at that point, there wasn't really much of an advantage anyways. Yeah. But I was able to play it for like 2 hours that night, and then I've been playing it roughly about 35 hours since. And this game is very fascinating to me because we've had 5 years of Grand Theft Auto 5. Like Grand Theft Auto 5 has just been like all we've had from Rockstar for the past 5 years. And so I've played that campaign a lot, and I've gotten kind of used to that pacing. I've gotten used to that style, that really bombastic nature. They're throwing these set pieces at you all the time. And I was really excited to have a Red Dead Redemption that was like that. But boy, is this just absolutely different. It's just diametrically opposed to everything about Grand Theft Auto 5 in every way. Like, it's a much more serious experience. It's much more grounded. And it's very slow and it's very methodical, which is just completely different from Grand Theft Auto 5. Because in Grand Theft Auto 5, you're in a bank heist, you're popping off dudes, you're running away from the police, you're saving your buddy, and then you're getting the heck out of there. And then as soon as you're done with that, boom, you're playing as Franklin, driving these cars because you're impounding them. Whereas in Red Dead Redemption 2, it starts with a ferry heist, but you don't even see it. So it starts with you just trudging through the snow nice and slowly, and then you're listening to other people talk. And like the first 10 minutes, like 8 minutes of it is just kind of moving forward. And then you're just kind of slowly moving along, just taking in the scenery, listening to a conversation. And that's a lot of what I've been doing. Like, I've been playing for 35 hours. And in that 35 hours, about 30 of it has been just like chores. It's felt like chores. It's felt like moving around. And the going for the trophies is probably the main reason why I've experienced so much of this frustration, because there are highly missable trophies in this, and you need to make sure every chapter you get to that you do a bunch of things. Otherwise, if you don't, then you're screwed over out of a couple trophies. So I need to make sure that go ahead, Mike. Were you going to say something?
That was just a sound of disgust. Ugh.
Yeah, exactly. So like, you have to have really good karma in order for certain side missions to pop up. And you need to do those side missions before moving on. And because if you don't, then you're all done. You have to start a whole new game in order to get those side missions done and get that trophy. What? So in order to make sure my karma's up, every day I wake up at the camp and I do the chores. So I have to pick up 2 sacks. I have to pick one up, and then you slowly walk over to the cart where you set them down, set that one down, then the second one down. Then I pick up a bucket, walk over to the wash buckets, empty the bucket, and then I walk over to the hay, pick up 2 bales of hay, give those to the horses, and then I go over to the log cutting area, and then I cut like the 8 logs. And this is like 35 minutes of my time every single in-game day. So this is like every hour of the game, 10 minutes of which is me just sitting there doing chores, and it's exhausting. And the on foot controls too can be a little lumbering. It can be difficult to get your character where you want him to be.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of locations that are very detailed, and there's a lot of loot in those locations. And like, you walk over to where you want to loot, but sometimes like the hitbox isn't right. You're not lined up correctly. And sometimes you'll go to try and pick something up and he'll get caught on something and then just teleport over there. That's happened to me a few times. And it's just so slowly paced. And I can appreciate it though. It's not something that's gelling with me where I'm at right now. It's just not hitting me in the right mood. But I can really appreciate how different it is as a video game, because, like Spider-Man, after 35 hours in, I was basically almost completely done with it. And in Red Dead Redemption 2, I've barely even scratched the surface after 35 hours. And that slower methodical pace allows you to kind of appreciate the finer details a little more. Whereas in Grand Theft Auto, you're just kind of like flying by these vistas in a really fast car. Whereas in Red Dead, you're slowly trudging through these landscapes, these forests. You're kind of appreciating how the moonlight shuffles through all the leaves and filters through and beams onto the grass and shines off of it. And as far as landscapes are concerned, the game looks great. And so they give you a lot of eye candy for those slower moments. And I also can appreciate that slower pace because it makes the like higher paced combat sequences feel more lofty and more weighty. So when you actually do whip out a gun and point it at someone, like at that point, I've spent like 5 hours without combat. So it feels important and it feels like I'm about to do something, really weighty. Whereas that's not really the case in Grand Theft Auto, where you're just mowing people down left and right and it's no big deal. You get arrested and then you get out of jail in 2 seconds and do the whole thing again. So yeah, it's getting the trophies I would not recommend. I also, because I need to keep very close watch of my moral meter, and I have to make sure I don't do anything bad. I can't run into people in town. I can't whip out my gun at anyone, otherwise my morality will just shoot down. So do not go for the trophies, and if you don't, it would be much more enjoyable.
So do you think though that there's trophies that only unlock if your morality was really low. I mean, because like you might have to go the other way too, won't you?
Yes, there is. I believe there is a trophy for getting like really, really bad, but that is significantly easier than being very, very good because you can just kill a bunch of people and then you're good.
Yeah. When you were telling me this, I was thought maybe you got confused if you were playing Stardew Valley and not.
Oh yeah.
Red Dead, but.
Yeah, Stardew Valley, I feel like I'm making more progress because that's got a satisfying loop, you know. I'm planting crops, I'm farming the crops, you know, I'm making more money a little bit at a time. Whereas in Red Dead, I'm just walking through the forest looking for a deer.
Yeah, see, I know this is where I think that you and I differ because, like, to me, I think that sounds so. That sounds like fun, actually, to me. Only because, like, I just think, like, wow, like I'm really gonna be like this person, right? I'm really gonna like live in his shoes, and I mean, I agree with you on the fact that the combat, like the little combat that I've done so far, it feels really intense. It feels like, you know, this is like important. Like when you first take out the the O'Dressel, is that what their names? What was that?
Yeah, the like rival gang.
Yeah, when you go attack their first camp, right? Like, man, that felt so powerful and so like meaningful, right? And then when you the first train that the whole thing doesn't go right, and you have to like jump on the train, and you know, Mike and I were talking about this before the show started. You know, there's at the end you have choices to make, and I don't want to spoil too much, but I think people that play this game are probably this way farther than this already. But you know, you have these three guys that you know that Dutch has said that they can survive, and one of the guys didn't get on the train, and this is where I think like the controls are a little weird because I pulled my gun just trying to threaten him and I accidentally shot the guy.
Right, yeah, and I did the same thing too. And even to your point about kind of the wonky controls, when I was on that same train heist mission, and I shot a guy, and they're like, "All right, we need to get to the front." I'm like, "Well, hold on, I'm gonna loot these guys first."
Yeah.
So I looted one of them, and then I went to pick him up. And like, "Oh, I'm gonna try something fun. I'm gonna try to throw him off the edge of the train." So I pick him up, and I go to throw him off the edge of the train, and I just tapped forward on the joystick.
Oh no.
And we both went careening over the edge of the train, right at the edge of a cliff. So I hit the ground, roll a little bit, roll off the cliff. Drop down about 75 to 100 feet, and I'm like, all right, I have to restart this.
Yeah, that's funny. But
this is a game that is going to take 200 hours to finish.
Yeah,
like when I was seeing those 200-hour numbers, I was like, okay, I mean, I've 100% in Grand Theft Auto 5, and it was quick pace, so it didn't feel like 200 hours, whereas this, it's felt like 35 hours because the game does not care about your time.
But yeah, and it's funny because I think a lot of people are saying the same thing that you are, that it's just so slow and so like so much to do. But for me, like I think that's this thing that sounds like fun. I don't know. I'm so weird. Yeah. I'm a weird gamer, I think, but I love the fact that you can get so immersed into this character's world, and I was really afraid that I wasn't going to like him as much as John from the first game. But I really like Arthur because even though he's an outlaw, I feel like there's some good in him. Well, you can make it up whatever you want, I guess, but
yeah,
I do feel like there's some aspects of good in him, depending on how you play the game too. So.
Yeah, I think it's a very fascinating departure for someone like Rockstar, who made Grand Theft Auto 5 and was soaring high, and I would have thought the last thing they would do with Red Dead Redemption 2 is make something that's so different because of how successful Grand Theft Auto 5 was. But it's interesting. I feel like the original Red Dead Redemption was less of a departure because Grand Theft Auto 4 came out right beforehand, and that was a bit slower paced. Like you start out, you're just arriving on a boat, arriving to New York City, whereas Red Dead Redemption 1, it did have a slightly slower pace, but not significantly so when compared to the previous Grand Theft Auto game. Whereas this one is very different, and it's just a little jarring to me. I'll probably get more into the groove of things once I get to like 70, 80 hours, but it's jarring right now.
Yeah, no, I see. And that's what a lot of people said. Do you think, though, one thing I will ask both of you, do you think this game deserved a 10 out of 10? I mean, like, Game Informer and Push Square, both of those places gave 10 out of 10s. There's a lot. I mean, this must be, remember reading this correctly, this is like the highest rated game on the PS4 right now. Do you think it's really worth a 10 out of 10? Do you think it's better than God of War?
I think I'm too early into it to say definitively one way or the other.
Yeah.
I'm sure it gets better, but I don't know. I right now I will say it's a great game. I don't know if it's 10 worthy. Like I just think there's too many like strange things that I don't think should be happening in the game. Like, for example, I stopped a robbery. Like, there's just a random event. I stopped a robbery. The two of the O'Driscoll boys were trying to rob someone, so I got into a fight with them, and I beat them both up. And the guy thanked me, and he gave me like a pocket watch or something to say thanks, and he walked away. And so I went to, obviously to loot the two guys, and then and everything was fine. And then I accidentally pressed the square button to pick one of them up, and all of a sudden my wanted level went up.
Oh no!
Like, and all of a sudden I was wanted, and people started chasing after me. I'm like, well, I just saved this guy's life. Why, just because I picked him up, now I'm wanted? So I don't know. I don't want to pass judgment on it just yet, but I would say right now, great game. I don't think it's a 10 worthy. And this is coming from someone who played Red Dead 1 straight for like 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think, Christian?
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with Mike on this one, I think, because I feel like it's very good, and Rockstar does some things just so incredibly well, to an extent that we don't see in any other video games that are made. But I feel like because it's Rockstar, it's getting a pass in certain respects that other video games wouldn't. And I feel that the dichotomy between the evil and good stuff is a little bit of a turnoff to me, because it's just like this black and white moral system that we've seen in so many other games, and it doesn't feel like all that original. It doesn't feel original to me the way that everyone else is speaking so highly of it. Like I help out a guy, and then he says thank you, and then he says take what you want, and then I take something, and apparently I was only supposed to take one thing, because when I take a second thing, boom, I lose moral points. And then I take a third thing, and boom, I lose moral points. And then I have to restart my last checkpoint because I don't want to lose moral points because I want the trophy. So it's exhausting having to keep track of all this stuff. Or there was this lady who owed me money, so I asked her for the money, and then this guy beat me up, and so I beat him up, and she's like, okay, you can take the money off of him. So I take the money off of him, and then she starts running away, and she's going to tell on me.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I'm going to report you to the authorities. And then, so I have to run her down. I have to pull my gun out on her, put it in her face, and be like, hey, you can't do that. And then I have to make doubly sure I do not shoot. I do not punch her. I do not do anything, because otherwise my moral points will go down.
Yeah.
Even though no one can see it, it's strange.
Yeah,
it feels old and antiquated in the morality system department.
Yeah, that seems really weird, especially since, like, in that case where you were explaining that, you like helped that woman and she saw like everything happen, right? And then she's gonna report you. Like, that seems kind of weird. Like,
it is weird.
I thought the same thing. I was walking around on this camp area, and this guy, like, threatened me, and I tried to defuse the situation, and he started punching me. I was like, okay, so I beat him up. Nobody cared about that until I looted him, and then all of a sudden, oh my god, you looted the guy. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, the guy started a fight, and I'm sorry, he attacked me. So I don't know. I agree that was. I think it seems like that's a weird programming thing that, when they see something happening, regardless of who the character is, they have to go report the crime.
Yeah.
Did any of you watch Walking Dead?
I've seen a little bit.
I've seen the first couple seasons.
So in the second, this morality just totally reminds me of that in the second season, when Shane was starting to go crazy.
Yeah. And
Rick's wife was like, he's going crazy. You need to kill him. And then he kills him. And she's like, what'd you kill him for?
yeah, that's true.
You
literally just told me to do that.
So in that respect, I think when you see a 10, you think perfect video game. And I understand that does not exist. A perfect video game does not exist. And I understand that some people have experienced things through Red Dead Redemption 2 that they have not in any other open world video game ever. And I feel like there's a lot of value in that. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So, Blue, do you want to go into the review of Nickelodeon Kart Racers?
Yes, I played Nickelodeon Kart Racers this week. I got a code through one of the sites that I write for, the Loot Gaming. And I have many thoughts on this. I was so excited for this because I love kart racing games and I love Nickelodeon. Like, Christian, I don't know, you're kind of on the young side, but the other guys might remember what it was like in the 80s and 90s. Like, you had the Disney Channel or you had Nickelodeon, and that's what you had to watch as a kid. And Nickelodeon always went head to head with Disney and was great. Always gave Disney a run with how great their shows were. And so I was so looking forward to this game because, it had such potential to be so amazing. They've got, several decades worth of characters they could pull through. And if thinking about how creative Nickelodeon always is, I just thought this is going to be awesome. Unfortunately, the reality was a little bit different. So the game is basically a Mario Kart clone. If you've played Mario Kart 7 or 8, you already know what you're going to get here. It's exactly the same. You've got races that are organized into cups. You can play 1 to 4 player multiplayer. You drive along the tracks and you pick up boxes, and the boxes have items with which that you can torment your fellow racers. But the items really aren't anything that special. They're pretty much just 1-to-1 replacements of things that you would normally find in Mario Kart.
Really?
Yeah. So, for example, you can pick up Tommy Pickles has like a beach ball, and that's basically a blue shell. You throw it and it goes.
Nice.
It hits the person in first place. And SpongeBob's spatula does the exact same thing. If you pick up cookies, they're basically mushrooms. You use it and it gives you a quick boost.
Okay.
If you pick up footballs, they're like red shells. You throw it and it hits whoever is nearest to you. So it's not anything real original, in the actual gameplay department. The one thing that they did differently is the use of slime, which anybody who has watched Nickelodeon knows that's everywhere on the Nickelodeon brand. So what happens in the game is there be little slime puddles everywhere, and you drive over them and your cart sucks up the slime, and then you have a slime gauge that fills up, and you can tap the button and you get a boost, like a NOS boost. And so, depending on, there's a bit of strategy involved depending on where and when you use it. Like one time I went off a jump, and then like you're familiar with in Mario Kart, you get the glider that pops up.
Yeah. Really?
So I used my slime boost when I was up in the air, and it sent me straight into a wall. So there's some strategy. You can't just, boost whenever you want.
They'll teach you to use your slime boost.
Yep, that was my bad. I learned my lesson. So, and the tracks are decently fun. They're all themed on the properties involved, but here is the big complaint, is that there's only 4 shows represented in the game. You have Rugrats, you have SpongeBob, you have Hey Arnold, and you have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Weird.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's really weird.
I know. No Doug?
No Doug. No Invader Zim. No Rocko's Modern Life. No Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like, nothing. All of these characters are just so noticeably missing. It's the weirdest thing.
The inclusion of the TMNT is really weird too. It seems like they just kind of threw that in there to appeal to younger audiences, because those don't mesh well with the other 3 you said in there.
And that's one of my major questions about the game is it's obviously created to be a kart racer for young kids. Mm-hmm. Like when you first start the game, it was so funny because we were trying to figure out the buttons. It doesn't really tell you before you start going. So I was playing with my husband, and we're both driving, and I'm like, how do you use how do you use the items? He says, oh, you press B. And I'm like, no, you don't. You press B to drive forward. He's like, no, you don't. You press the right trigger button to drive forward. Like, what are you talking about? Turns out you don't press anything to accelerate.
What?
It goes on its own.
What?
So
what?
I don't know if that's presumably to make it easier for little kids because all they have to do is drive. They don't have to worry about the gas, but...
Can you turn that off?
You can.
Oh,
you can turn it off, but I had to look really hard to figure out where to do it. It's definitely not obvious. So if the game is designed and it kind of plays just like it's meant to be for little kids, then why did they pick the properties that they did?
Yeah.
Because those are properties for like 90s kids.
Yeah, exactly. That's weird. Maybe they'll come up with like DLC with additional cars.
I don't know. That's the only way they could save this game because the other major problem is the game is advertised as coming with 24 tracks. Here's the dirty secret. There's actually only 8 tracks. What they do is they rename the track and reverse it and pretend it's brand new.
Oh, no.
That is crappy. That is crappy.
It's the
old
worst
bait and
thing.
switch.
I know, it's the worst thing I've ever seen. And then they throw the same track in there a third time and they fill it with slime. And then they call it something else. And it's another track.
Oh,
I've never seen anything like it. It's ridiculous.
That sounds lazy.
I know, it's the worst shortcut in a game that I can ever remember seeing.
Wow. Yeah, when I read that on your no, I just said that I read your I read your article, and that was the part that made me laugh the most was the fact that they had advertised as 24 tracks, but really there's only 8. That's so ridiculous.
And after I finished the review, I went and read other reviews. And it doesn't seem that other people are bringing it up.
Really? You would think that that's a really big issue. That seems like
it's not subtle. Like the one that first alerted me to it is you've got this. You're driving through a birthday party at the Pickles house, and then I was like, so I'm just randomly picking tracks. And I was like, wait a second, there's another birthday one at the Pickles house. It's just called something different. And so I played that and I was like, this is the exact same thing. You're just going the other way.
Oh my god.
And then there's a third birthday party track. It's just got slime. Like, I mean, if you were going to reuse the actual tracks, at least redesign the graphics, you know? But that's really sad. It's incredibly lazy, and I was... So... Considering there's only 8 tracks, there's only 12 characters, there's no character voices at all.
Yeah.
And there's no online play.
That was another weird, crappy part. Yeah. What is up with all this?
I don't know. It's just this is the most phoned in game I can remember playing in forever. I can't even figure out if I was Nickelodeon and I gave my licensing to Bamtang Games to make this game, and this is what they came up with, I would be pissed. Holy cow.
Yeah. Do you think it's an issue that they didn't have? I mean, it sounds weird to me that they wouldn't have the rights to some of the stuff, but maybe they didn't have the rights to this? I mean, considering it's a Nickelodeon, kart racer, I would think they would have, if you have the name Nickelodeon, I think you would have the rights to all this, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. And if the rest of the game had been exemplary and the lineup of characters was the only thing that was lacking, I might be more inclined to think that.
Yeah. Sounds like you said it phoned in, so that's too bad.
Yep, exactly, phoned in. But I was on the Target website, and the Nickelodeon Kart Racers is part of the buy 2 get 1 free. So if you get it as a free game, that's about the only time that I can recommend playing it. Don't pay full price for this game, for real, because it's only 1/3 of a game.
That's funny. All right. Well, thanks, Blue. That was. Where can people read that review then too? Can you give the link for that?
On thelootgaming.com.
Yeah. So, it was a fantastic review. If you want to read a review that goes in depth with, everything about the game, go read that review because Blue, you do a really good job with writing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mike, you want to go next? Want to talk about Stasis?
Yeah, well, I can tell you this. It's a little bit better than Nickelodeon Kart Racers.
Everything is better than Nickelodeon Kart Racers.
Can only go up from here.
Yeah, really, yeah. That's a good setup. I like that. That'll work. So Stasis is and there's a lot of adjectives in this, science fiction horror point and click adventure video game.
Wow.
So that's a lot of different aspects to it. It came out on the PC in 2015, and it's viewed from an isometric perspective. So it's not straight top down like the original Legend of Zelda. It's more like Diablo.
Yeah,
I guess you could say. But basically, it's a survival horror, definitely a survival horror game. Where you play as a character named John who wakes up from stasis. So him and his family are going on either a vacation or they're going someplace when and of course when you're going through deep space travel you go into stasis. You go into that cryo freeze, and he wakes up on a strange spaceship that was not the original one he was intending to be on. And unfortunately, the spaceship has been run over and completely decimated by evil creatures. So your job in the game is to unravel the mystery of what happened on the spaceship, find and rescue your family, and get off the spaceship before it crashes into Neptune's surface. When I first started playing this, I really wasn't expecting a whole lot out of it. Now, that's not saying I was thinking it was going to be bad. I just... as an the point of view, normally when I play like a horror game, it's something like Outlast or Resident Evil 7, where it's like you're in that character's shoes and it's really, really scary. So I wasn't expecting to be really scared with this one, but I was wrong on this. This was actually like very surprising to me at how well put together it was. The atmosphere. The sound is amazing. It really brings you into it. And there are a few jump scares that actually got me, like things I was not expecting. A lot of the game is played, it's basically puzzles. So you go into a room or an area. It's a fixed camera angle. So you use the mouse. You don't use the keyboard at all. It's all used with the mouse. Click around the area. You rest your pointer on certain items, and it'll give you a very detailed description of what you're looking at. Some items can be interacted with, and then you need to search the rooms, try to find certain items that you can combine with other items or to combine with the environment to make it to the next area or to get past like a certain enemy or something like that. It's slower pace, so there's not a whole lot of action in it, which to me, I thought that was a really great like breath of fresh air, because all these horror games that we play are like run and gun, try to hide, things like that. But you can take a breath with this, you could sit back and think. You don't have to worry about getting things done before an enemy finds you or something like that. So I really enjoyed that. Some of the things I noticed right away. The first thing I noticed was the amount of horror movie and horror game love that the developers had on this. I immediately thought of Event Horizon. Has anybody seen Event Horizon?
A long time ago, yeah.
Yeah. Event Horizon is an amazing sci-fi horror movie. And there's I definitely see a lot of nods to that, as well as Dead Space. Dead Space, again, another great game that I loved back when it came out. So I do see a lot of like I said, nods to those. There's also some more subtle things, like there was a character named Nick Grimes, which is a throwback to The Walking Dead. The writing in the game is phenomenal. There's scattered throughout the game, there's PDAs, which is like digital diaries that you'll find and you'll pick up, and it just gives you a general idea of what was going on in the ship before and during this outbreak. And it tells you so much about the background or about what happened. And that's one of the things I love the most, is not a game that kind of spoon feeds you the plot, is those games where you learn about the about what was happening through environmental cues. Like I said, in this case, the diaries that are laying around. There was another one that I played, SteamWorld Dig.
Mm-hmm.
In SteamWorld Dig, you were able to tell the entire story of what happened the further down you dig, just by looking at the the hieroglyphics on the in the background.
Yeah.
So can I ask you a question about that though? With the reading, is it necessary to read that stuff to get through the game? Because I'm going to tell you right now, that's not how I play games.
Yeah. So in some areas, yes, it is necessary, because there's clues on some of them, like a code to get to open up like a locker, or there's one area where you have to open up a chamber, and you need to read all the PDAs in the area. Not only that, but just look at what's around the PDA, like clues. I know it's kind of hard to explain, but look for clues surrounding the actual picture of the PDA, I guess you could say. So there is some instances where, you should be reading them, and there's some where you don't need to. There is one where I probably spent a good 40 minutes reading all these PDAs of these 4 people, these 4 scientists who were in some kind of weird love triangle where one guy liked another girl and the girl liked the guy, but the guy was gay, so he liked the guy, and the other girl just hated everybody. It was like an episode of Melrose Place, all just piled into this thing. But I was fascinated by it, and then they all died. So, but that's, I would recommend reading them. But it did get to a point where a little bit where I was like, all right, I'm kind of just skimming through these, like not as invested as I was.
Sure.
There's the voice acting. There's voice acting in the game. It's pretty well done. I did enjoy that. It definitely brought me into it. One of the other things I loved about the game is, like several of the early 90s point-and-click adventure games that came before it, if you make a mistake, you made a bad mistake, because it'll kill you immediately. Like, for example, I was early on in the game, I had to open up I can't remember what those things are called. The oven where you put people in and turn them to ash. Help me out here. Crematorium? I'll call that.
Yeah.
So I had to open up one of those, put a body in, and turn it on. Well, I didn't realize that I wasn't supposed to stand super close to it.
Oh no!
And I cooked myself.
Oh no!
But the good thing is, I got an achievement for it.
Oh.
So like some of these these trial and error deaths, you get achievements for it, so it is kind of fun. I'm like, all right, well, I didn't lose a whole lot. There was another one where I have to light a methane leak in order to blow a hole in a wall so I can escape. Well, I tried that, and I'm like, I can't figure this out. So I tried getting close to it. That was another mistake. I got blasted to bits. Then I'm like, oh, there's a catwalk above it. If I go to the catwalk and drop it from the okay, there we go. So, like I said, there's you're definitely using your noodle when it comes to this game.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a very interesting game. It's a good story. It kept me going. It was one of those situations where it's like, all right, let me just see what's in the next room. I'll save the game and then I'll go. And then the next thing I know, it's like 45 minutes later. I'm like, all right, what happened?
Yeah. You were streaming it this past week, and I know Blue and I were both watching your stream, and I will say it was freaky. Wasn't it scary?
Oh my gosh, I showed up like 20 minutes after it started, and so I log in, and the first thing I hear is this horrible blood-curdling screaming.
Yeah.
And then the game is like, the main character is like laid out on a some sort of surgery table, and he's got like his spine is all out in the open, and like robots are working on him or something, and I'm just like, what the heck did I just log into? What is going on?
You arrived at the perfect time. That
I guess. I was
that
like,
made
what?
that made me feel so uncomfortable. I was cringing when I was doing that because when you do that scene, and I don't want to give away too much on it, but you have to try to remove your own tracking device, and it gives you no instructions on how to do it. So I am just frantically just clicking on things as this beeping goes faster and faster. So in terms of like freaking you out and just making like your blood pressure go up and everything. Yeah, it was very effective with that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's $10 on Steam. For that price, I absolutely say it's worth it, especially if you like survival horror games and you're looking for something a little bit different than your run-of-the-mill Resident Evil style type of game.
Sure. Cool. All right, Christian, do you want to go next and give your review of Black Ops 4?
Sure. So I picked up Black Ops 4 regardless of my initial hesitancy. I played the beta for both the multiplayer and Blackout, and I was kind of lukewarm on them. I thought they were fine. They felt like, another Call of Duty. They didn't impress me that much, but after reading the reviews, I was very pleasantly surprised that it was being received very positively, which contrasts with some of the more recent Black Ops or Call of Duty releases. And I've been on the Call of Duty train for a while now. I've picked up every Call of Duty since Ghosts. And I've played through every other Call of Duty before Ghosts as well. Ghosts is kind of like the one Call of Duty I haven't played for whatever reason. But I was excited to get back on the Call of Duty train. I really liked World War II. But I was kind of disappointed to see that there wasn't a campaign this time around. I really like the campaigns because that's kind of how most of the trophies are wrapped up in the campaigns. So I enjoyed going through these shooting galleries, having some fun playing them through on the hardest difficulty. But this one just takes that out, and they put in Blackout, which is a Battle Royale mode instead. And like I said, I played the beta for that quite a bit, and it didn't impress me because it just kind of looked like a Battle Royale thing to me. But after playing it pretty significantly, I've actually come to really enjoy it a lot because despite the fact that it's just another Battle Royale, you've got a circle, you got to go inside the circle, you got to pick up loot after you parachute down from, or in this case, wingsuit down from a helicopter. There's more minute details that cause me to really appreciate it a bit more than I would something like PUBG. And it's kind of become a PUBG replacement for me because I've put like 70, 80 hours into PUBG. And
really?
Yeah, I've enjoyed it a lot. But
no, I mean, you put 70 hours into PUBG?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Okay. Yeah, right. I really like PUBG, but
you don't like Fortnite. That surprises me.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll play it with my little brother, but I really appreciate the ballistics model on PUBG more, and I like how it's definitely more simulation than it is arcade, which is what Fortnite is. It's more arcade.
Yeah.
Because it just takes like a few good shots into someone, like 3 or 4 body shots, and boom, they're down. And it's so satisfying to lead your target, take gravity into account, take bullet drop into account, and just do one single pop of an assault rifle. And then you see the red mist explode from them, and then you're like, yes, I just shot you. And Black Ops, it's kind of in the middle. It's a little arcadey because you've got that typical Black Ops gunplay, but it's also a bit more simulation-y because there's actually bullet drop that you have to account for, which is not something that has been in any other Black Ops game really, or Call of Duty game for that matter, because the maps haven't been big enough for there to be bullet drop. Everything's been kind of hit scan, which is where you just point and click, and if your cursor is on top of them, it's an automatic hit. Here, there's actual ballistics, there's physical rendering of bullets, and you have to account for bullet drop, and that makes silencers really play into things, because if you get a silencer, your bullets are going to drop even more, and so you really decrease your range. And it's still really fun to lead your target with a sniper, see someone far away, and then pop a headshot, and then they go clambering down to the ground. It feels fantastic. And it feels really good to, just be doing a battle royale in the Call of Duty framework. And they've got... Initially, I was very hesitant about their interface because, what was it? PUBG did not have the console interface figured out at all. They kind of just put the PC interface onto the Xbox and then let you control around in it. Yeah. Whereas in Blackout, they've got things pretty well figured out. I wouldn't say quite to the extent of Fortnite, but you can pretty much stay out of your inventory for the most part, which is great because your inventory is like this screen where you have to move this like mouse cursor a la Destiny around in order to like equip and unequip attachments. And that's the main thing that you can't do unless you're in your inventory is equip and unequip attachments. But everything else, you pick up these perk things that you can quickly use by just opening up your D-pad. You can switch what healing items you're going to be using with your D-pad. And the pace of play is also quite a bit different from PUBG. It's a bit faster, but not as fast as Fortnite. And that makes it just continues to make it a PUBG replacement for me because it's a bit slower, a bit more methodical, but it's really easy to pick up and play. Like you just get into a match and it'll take like 20 minutes to get to the end and then boom, you can get right into another one and have fun again.
So would you say...
Go ahead, Roger.
Can I ask that question? Would you say this is something for somebody like myself who's not good at? You know, because I'm not. I mean, like, would I enjoy this game with somebody that is not good at these types of games? Would I be able to pick up this pretty quickly?
I would say most likely, but it's difficult. It's difficult because like Battle Royale is just a genre now, and considering I've played Fortnite, I've played a lot of PUBG. I can just get into a Battle Royale game and be like, okay, this maps to this game. This maps to this game. These are similar. And I kind of instantly understand like what all the map means, what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah.
And for someone who's not very familiar with Battle Royales, I can't really speak to, there's probably going to be a rough learning phase. And that was still the case with me with Battle Royale. While I was playing the beta, I still had to figure out like, okay, what guns do I want? Is this an SMG? Is this an assault rifle? What's kind of the range of engagements? And it's very highly competitive. I mean, like you want to be the first person. It's you against 87 other people. So you got to be there to perform. And you can have fun by not getting first place. You can drop into highly densely populated areas and maybe get a kill or two and have fun that way. But I find a lot of fun. I find I have more fun when I do better. And because of that, it would be hard for me to recommend Battle Royale to a newcomer.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Roger.
No, that's fine. Well, what you said, like the second or third time you played this, you got first place, right? Isn't that great? Isn't that correct? Yeah. I don't. Well, but here's the thing. Christian. I mean, when I hear that, I'm like, oh, it sounds like it's accessible from a lot of different people. But then I remember that you are like a god when it comes to gaming. So then I had to keep that into consideration.
I wish I was a god. I look at that trophy list. And it makes me die inside because it's awful. Because like I said, the campaigns are kind of what had all the trophies in the past. They would have campaign trophies, and then they would have a couple of zombies trophies, and that would be it. And that's what let me get some of the platinums in the past. But with this one, no single player, so they can't put trophies to that. So there are some nightmare trophies in there, man. There are a lot of bad zombies trophies. They're going to take a long time. There are some bad blackout trophies in there that I'm just never going to get in my existence, and I don't think a lot of people will. It's a nightmare.
If anybody can do it, you can do it, Christian.
Yeah, that's right.
I wish you were right. It's going to take 200, 300 hours just in Blackout, and that's excluding the multiplayer and zombies for me to get.
Like, what are they? What's so bad about them?
So, yeah, you can get customization. You can customize your character very slightly in the Blackout mode. All of the customization across the 3 different modes is very segregated, which is interesting because it makes everything feel like 3 separate games instead of 3 modes to 1 game. And you can play as different characters throughout Black Ops history in Blackout mode. And I was expecting there to be like a bunch of customization, but I was surprised that there really isn't. It's just kind of pick from default character skins, or you can pick a Black Ops character. But in order to unlock those Black Ops characters, you have to do these like crazy specific like things. You have to do these crazy specific tasks. So like one of them I've been trying to get, but I still haven't gotten it yet, which is like, as you defeat people, you'll go and loot them and they'll have like these destroyed armor pieces on them. And if you have 3 of those in your inventory and then finish a match, you unlock that character. But there's other ones that are just ridiculous. Like one is where you have to find a shotgun, you have to kill a player with the shotgun, you have to get on a helicopter, and then you have to jump off the helicopter, and then you have to win the match. And that's just one character unlock, and there's like 15 of these. So you need to meet these very specific requirements in order to unlock every single character for these stupid bronze trophies. It's ridiculous.
It's like they were just pulling.
They're not even gold.
Just pulling requirements out of a hat.
Yeah, it is. It's bizarre. I mean, I like it. I like how like pared back the customization is, because I was expecting it to just be this like smorgasbord of items everywhere, loot boxes, slapping skins on things left and right. But no, it's the Blackout's progression stuff is really pared back. But the Blackout is only 1/3 of the whole Black Ops 4 experience. And if there's one thing I can say about Call of Duty games is that they've continued to be like these crazy variety packs where there's just so much content packed into one package, because the multiplayer is a whole separate portion that people will be playing for hours and hours and hours and they won't stop. And I was very hesitant about Black Ops 4 because I didn't like Black Ops 3 all that much. I did not like Black Ops 2, which is not a very popular opinion in the multiplayer, on the multiplayer side of things. But I really like Black Ops 4. It goes back to the boots on the ground. There isn't as much jetpacking. There isn't as much flying around and doing a bunch of crazy stuff. And they also add this med pack thing, which is something that I was also initially hesitant towards. But I'm kind of liking it because it spices up the pace of play a little bit, because after you defeat someone, you can heal instantly by just popping yourself with the med pack. You don't have to sit back, wait for the red stuff to go away, and then go back into the action. You can immediately get back in, but you also have to remember to pop yourself with a med pack. So usually if you exchange fire, the first thing you do isn't reload anymore. It's now pop the heal, and then you reload. And it's a small little change, but I like it quite a bit. And there's also like cones of visions, which helps incentivize team play more so than it has in the past, because in the past you just, unplug, just play some Call of Duty, shoot some people, and then call it good. Whereas now your teammates can actually help you out pretty significantly. So I like the multiplayer quite a bit. And there's a whole third end of this package, which is zombies. And zombies is zombies. I mean, it's not really that original. They add a new cast of characters, and they have 3 maps out the gate with this one, which I believe is more than they've had in any other zombies experience. And it lends a good sense of variety, because you've got like this Roman Colosseum map, you've got this Titanic map, which is really cool, and then you've also got this more classic zombies experience, which is a remake of the Black Ops 2 map called Blood of the Dead. And there's just a lot of variety to be had on the zombies experience too, because all 3 maps feel like pretty substantial experiences. None of them feel like they're just kind of tacked on, which is cool. But zombies is what it is. You're either going to like it or you're not. I really liked the tutorial that they had for the Black Ops 4 zombies, because they, to my knowledge, have not had a tutorial for the zombies mode yet. And it's really great. There's this narrator walking you through everything so you can understand, get your feet wet as to what you want to do in the early game. And it also lets you acquaint yourself with the new perks that you're going to be dealing with this time around. And I feel like the zombies tutorial is perfect for a newcomer, because they start out at the ground floor, and the tutorial is really great for that. So yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised with Black Ops 4. I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm enjoying Blackout way more than I thought I would. I'm still sad that it's missing a campaign, because I feel like Call of Duty was doing great things with their campaign. I really liked the Infinite Warfare campaign. It was my favorite Call of Duty campaign in like 5-10 years, since like Modern Warfare 2 days. But I'm okay with Blackout. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun with it. And it's a really good palate cleanser in between Red Dead Redemption 2 sessions, where I'm playing this really slow, lumbering experience, and then boom, I pop out into Call of Duty, where it's just really fast and frantic, get a couple kills, and just have some fun for a while, and then go back to Red Dead.
Not worry about your morality.
Yeah.
Exactly. No morality worrying
no
needed.
morality.
And I've conceded to not getting the Platinum Trophy in Black Ops 4, so I don't have to worry about that.
Okay. Wow. Well, that's just one less on your trophy case there, Christian. So
You're right.
I bet you 3 months from now you'll be like, guess what I'm doing? I'm hunting the trophy.
Oh no, I'd hate myself. I'd be spending too much time.
Oh, well, thank you, Christian, for the review. And Mike, I forgot to thank you for your review. Mike, your review that you had on Stasis, that's going to come up on our site, right?
Yep. That's on the Gamerheads Podcast .podbean.com.
Cool. Then I'm going to go into quickly my review then I reviewed SkyScrappers. I keep wanting to say SkyScrapers, and actually that comes out in the interview, which is the second half of the show. He jokes about that too. James does, the creator behind it. So, SkyScrappers is an action arcade, game, where it's vertically scrolling versus horizontally scrolling. And what you're doing is you're scaling on top of, up a building, and fighting against either AI or up to 4 different players. And you pick a character, and you have 2 ways of winning. You can either beat your opponent by just beating them up and defeating them, or you can make it to the top of the building first. And it's kind of fun. It reminds me of like martial arts movies where like you'd see like somebody climbing up, like a Jackie Chan movie or something, where they're climbing up part of a scaffolding and it starts like tipping and then they jump off to the next piece of the building. That's what I really loved about it. It just reminded me of a martial arts game in that sense. It is very arcade. This game is very streamlined. The controls are very streamlined. You have jump and attack, and that's really it in regards to the functionality. There is ground pound where you can jump down and do a slam and slam your fist and send shockwaves against your opponents. And then there's also a special where you can double jump. Once you have your special meter all the way full, then you can do a special attack as well. So those are the things that I really liked about the game. The other thing I will say is that the characters are funny. They have funny banter between each one and before a match, and that's kind of it's goofy and it's funny, and it brings color to the characters as well. The things that I will say that I didn't like about the game, well, not that I didn't like, but I wish that there was more characters in the game, because the game is fun, and I wish that there was just more that you could select from in the game. There's only 4 characters you can select from, so that was. I just wish that there was more.
Yeah.
But, if you're looking for something that, if you're having friends over and you want to have something different, a different fighting type of game, this is definitely something different because there's different ways you can win the game. And the thing I liked about it was the fact that you don't have to memorize combinations. You don't have to memorize like left, right, left, right, A, B, and then that will do a special move. It's simple. It's simple movements, and anybody can pick it up and start playing it. And then, like I said, there's different ways you can win it. You can either try, making it to the top the tower first before your opponents do, or you can try beating up your opponents. So, both approaches like lend well for your, I guess, gameplay style. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, that's out now on the Switch. Oh, the other cool thing about this is that it is vertical, so you can switch the Switch to vertical position, and you can play it in that Tate mode. Is that how you pronounce it, Tate? But yeah, that's pretty cool in itself. So.
That does sound cool.
Yeah, is that you have to play that multiplayer, or can you play it by yourself?
You can play it by yourself. I will say there is a story mode to the single player, but there's only 4 characters. And then once you make it through your first round of characters, then all of a sudden they start jumping in, and you'll have like 3 villains you're taking on, or 3 AI bots you're taking on at the same time. So, yeah. So, I mean, I think it's like $10 on the Switch, so it's not too terribly expensive. If you're looking for something that's going to be a different experience, this is certainly something that is out there for you.
Cool.
All right, and my review for that will also be up on gamerheadspodcast.podbean.com too. So, any final thoughts from anyone before we head to break?
No.
Nope.
All right, so then, listeners, stay tuned, because then we have an interview with James Parker from Ground Shatter, the makers of SkyScrappers. So stay tuned for that. So, Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And Christian, thank you so much for joining us. Of course,
it's a pleasure.
And Blue, thank you so much for joining us as well.
You betcha.
All right, listeners, stay tuned for the interview, and then we'll catch you next week. Creativity wins in this colorful freestyle scooter championship. In Crayola Scoot, more tricks means more color, and color can change the world in impossible ways. So get ready to take on Scoot Legends in a rainbow of thrilling events, or grab 3 friends for a split-screen color clash. Crayola Scoot, coming to Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC in the US on October 16th. It's time to make your mark on Scoot Park.
When the universe might be in danger, who will save the day and protect the humans? Never fear, Jedamero is here to save the day. Or, at least, Jedamero will try their best. Watch out for that building, Jedamero! Jedamero, Hero of the Universe, is a relaxing journey through the cosmos, unraveling an emotional story about a giant, indestructible robot. Rocket through a beautifully stylized procedural universe and discover the history of Jedamero while jamming to a collection of down-tempo sci-fi jams. Coming to the Nintendo Switch on October 4th and available for pre-order now. Jedamero, Hero of the Universe.
Hey, this is Roger from the Gamerheads Podcast.
And this is Mike from the Controller Throwers Podcast.
Starting the week of October 14th, you'll be able to listen to both of our shows by subscribing to one network, the Gamerheads Podcast Network.
That's right. Each Sunday, you'll be able to listen to new episodes of the Gamerheads Podcast, and each Wednesday, you'll be able to listen to new episodes of the Controller Throwers.
2 great shows under one roof.
Make sure you subscribe on Podbean at gamerheadspodcast.podbean.com, or you can subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you get new episodes of your favorite podcast.
The Controller Throwers and Gamerheads, a great team up just like Bonnie and Clyde.
They both died.
Thelma and Louise.
No.
Okay, Sonny and Cher?
No, not that either.
Kim and Kanye?
Close enough.
And welcome back to Gamerheads. This week, my guest is James Parker. He is from Ground Shatter Games, the makers of SkyScrappers. How are you today, James?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
So, James, tell us about yourself and Ground Shatter Games.
So I've been making games for, I think, 20 years today. In fact, it's my anniversary of getting my first job in the games industry. So,
congratulations.
Thank you. That seems like a frightening amount of time. So I started off, as many people do, as a games designer in a larger company. It was kind of large at the time. It was kind of 15, 20 people. And then worked through various companies, and about 4 years ago started up Ground Shatter, which was kind of my opportunity to kind of craft a company that had kind of my ideals in mind and made the sort of games that I wanted to make.
Nice.
And SkyScrappers was the first game that kind of came out of that process.
Nice. In SkyScrappers, I want to talk about that game. So this game is a unique game that combines both arcade style gameplay and I would say like a feel of like a martial arts movie where you're jumping off different platforms. What was the inspiration behind SkyScrappers?
At least part of it was a desire to work with the artist who ended up doing all the animation and the graphics for it, who I'd known for a little while, but really liked that kind of anime feel and that kind of Saturday morning kids action cartoon vibe. So part of it was thinking of an idea that suited that look. And that I could kind of come up with an idea that would get him on board and come up with some interesting characters that would kind of fit in this slightly bizarre world that we created, where people would jump to the top of collapsing buildings for fun.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about the characters then. The characters have a fun banter between them. What was the creation process behind the characters and the dialogue?
Again, I guess it was trying to think of some character types that would put themselves willingly in this situation and would be able to, I guess, riff off each other in the way they do. And it because it's quite a simple game. There's not there's nuance to it, but actually the core of the game, which is jumping and fighting and moving between platforms, is quite straightforward. There needed to be a layer on top of that, which kind of gave them this motivation and just gave a bit of texture to the game, I suppose, and put a voice to the really nice character artwork that was already there.
Yeah, sure. And that's actually one thing that I really liked about this game was this just how straightforward the game was, and just somebody that maybe new to action arcade games it's easy for them to pick up and play against even seasoned players. So I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, one of the kind of primary motivations for it was making a game that felt like an old stand-up coin-op arcade game, which has exactly that. When you walked into an arcade as a kid in the 80s, 90s, you would see a game and you would put your quarter in or your 50 pence in my world, and and you would play a game that you'd never seen before. At best, you'd have an attract mode that showed you roughly what was going on, maybe gave you an idea of the buttons, but generally you'd stick your money in, you'd find out about the game as you were playing it. So we always kind of had that self-imposed limitation of one stick and two buttons, which is kind of the classic arcade setup. And then one of the benefits of that is that now we've moved it onto Switch, then you can play with a single Joy-Con, so you can have you can have up to 4 players, and you only need 4 Joy-Cons for that. So as soon as you've got a Switch, you've got the ability to play 2-player local, and you only need a couple more controllers, and then you can have 4 players playing at once.
Yeah. And the other thing that's unique about the Switch that I liked what you guys did was able to switch it vertically.
Yeah.
Can you tell about that, how that process came about?
Well, that was something that we had in the very early versions of the game. You could play on PC, you could play in vertical mode, which was nice, but very incredibly limited in terms of who would ever actually do that. So kind of in the office, I've got screens that you can turn 90 degrees, so we could play the game on that, but for the PS4 version, no one was ever going to rotate their TV on its side. So we kind of shelved that for a bit. But with the Switch, that's something that you can do. If you're playing in kind of tabletop mode, you can lean your Switch up against a cup or whatever, and you can play in vertical mode, which again is another thing that makes it feel like an old arcade game, and really suits the aspect of how you play the game as you're kind of progressing up these buildings.
Yeah. And actually, there's some companies, I know that there was a Kickstarter for controllers, a dock and hold the controllers where the Switch will slide so it's vertical. So I actually pre-ordered one of those. So it'll be interesting to play it that way. I'm excited to try that out. Yeah,
so that was one of the things that helped kind of make that decision for us, is whether we'd go to the extra effort of putting that in, was the fact that Kickstarter or that Indiegogo campaign had been very successful, and there was loads of people who were going to have this thing, and we thought, well, why not? Mostly people are going to use it to play classic arcade games in those collections, but actually it would be nice for all of those people to have a brand new game that they can play in vertical mode as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What were some things that you learned about yourself and the game while developing SkyScrappers? Scrappers. I keep calling saying scrapers, SkyScrappers. Sorry.
It's a very easy mistake. A lot of people have made it, and the other way around is that a lot of people spell skyscrapers with 2 P's. So whenever we had Google alerts and Twitter searches, we were finding news articles about very tall buildings, but not about the game. It's the problem of doing a pun for your title.
Yeah.
It's been quite a long time since, because SkyScrappers was in development 3 or 4 years ago, and so we're talking about it again now because of the Switch version, obviously. But it's been nice how there's a new set of people getting to see it now who may have missed it the first time around, because when we released it, it was essentially me working on my own with a couple of other people working as freelancers. But since then, Ground Shatter has grown slightly, so I've got more people on the team now. So they're kind of enjoying the response that the new version is getting as well.
Sure. What were some of the challenges bringing it to the Switch then?
Well, we were very lucky. We worked with a company called Ant Workshop, who are someone I've known for a very long time. And they're specialising to some degree in bringing in other games to Switch that have been kind of released on other platforms before. So they're real kind of specialists in that. So it was really nice to be able to just hand over the code and say, can you have a look at this? Do you think it's going to work? And then them take it and go, yeah, it's going to work. We'd like to make these changes so it's going to work in these ways when we put in the vertical mode, for instance, or how the controller setup's going to work. So it was really nice working with someone who's got that kind of existing knowledge already of the platform, so that we can make use of that and come up with a really high quality port. So
James, what's next for Ground Shatter Games?
So we've been working for a little while on a game called Rico, which is coming to all platforms early next year, and it's a cop-themed co-op first-person shooter, and you kick down doors and you shoot bad guys, and it's kind of designed around this idea of quite short session play and co-op, and the levels are randomly generated, so it's different every time, and so it's a matter of kind of assessing what's happening in the moment, kicking down the doors. You get a little burst of slowdown while you can kind of even the numbers, basically, so it's a kind of you against a load of mooks.
Wow, that sounds interesting. And that's coming to all systems then, is that right?
Yeah, and it's nicely suited to the Switch as well, because it's got that ability to play a very quick mission while you're traveling or whatever, and then you can pick it up, and when you get home you can dock it and you can carry on and play co-op with a friend.
Nice. That's exciting. That sounds really cool. I'm excited for that. Well, James, thank you so much for taking time out of your day, and I know it's evening for you, so thank you for taking time out of your evening and meeting with me. I appreciate that.
No problem at all.
All right. Well, thanks, listeners, and we'll talk to you next week.